Hey, this is Derek Depker, Integrative Breakthrough Coach, and today I have a confession. My intention of sharing this with you is not only to get it off my chest, although I didn't really want to share this with the world, but because I felt such a sense of guilt and maybe even some shame over what happened yesterday. And by going through a process that I'm going to share with you, I ended up feeling incredible joy and hope for the future, feeling much more empowered now. And I thought, well, if I can take myself through those states, then I know the power of this process, and it might help you if you're ever going through a situation where you feel some guilt, you ultimately feel like you're not in alignment and living in integrity with the person that you know you are and the person that you know you're becoming, which is ultimately at the heart of what happened. So yesterday, I'm driving home from a trip to Vegas, and I go into a gas station to get some water, and I walk up to the counter. Now this counter is fairly flat, and there's a person on the left and a person on the right at the cash register. So I kind of straddle the middle a little bit, and I'm a little bit facing towards my right, thinking that's the one that's going to open up next. But ultimately, it's like, hey, which one opens up first? That's the one I go to. A guy comes up. He walks up from my right. He walks up, and he just walks right in front of me over and stands behind the woman to my left that's at the register. Now, as soon as this happens, I'm in my mind. I'm going, wait, did he just cut in front of me? Did he not see me? Well, maybe he's with that girl. Oh, no, it kind of looks like they're separate. He's got something else that he's buying. Well, I guess I'll see. You know, my intentionality, I was a little bit more body positioning, aiming towards the right. I probably was kind of intending to go to this one anyway. So, and it looks like it might open up here before the one on my left. So whatever, it's probably not a big deal. I guess I'll just kind of see what happens. Then the woman on the left leaves. It's the next register open. He just walks right up and goes there. And I'm like, okay, I guess he really did just do that. I was kind of curious, was he going to say anything? And I'm sitting there thinking about this, and then I'm looking over to my right. It's still taking a little while, and I start to get a little bit of a feeling that by the time it opens up on my right, maybe 20 seconds later, I walk up, I just get that sinking disgust with myself, like, I just let someone cut in front of me in line. Like, I didn't even say anything. I didn't even speak up. And I walk back to my car, and I sit with that feeling. And now some of you might be going one of two things. You might be like, well, why didn't you say anything? Or you might be like, come on, it's not that big of a deal. Well, what I was saying to myself was, oh, man, it's not that big of a deal. I wasn't in that much of a hurry. It's not really worth bringing up. Who knows how he would have responded? I mean, I'm sure I could have handled it, but, you know, it's whatever. And I was watching my pattern. I was watching how I process this situation. Now, I have very good skills to just let it go and be like, whatever, not a big deal, which is what I was really doing in that situation anyway. But I understood something. I understood that sinking feeling was an awareness that I gave up my personal power, some degree of it. I just compromised. I just let someone do something that I didn't feel needed to be done, and there was no blame towards him, but it could have been a very simple, oh, hey, sir, I was actually next in line. I was waiting for the next open register. Could have said it very friendly, very nice. And if he would have really been upset about it, I would have been like, hey, I'm letting you know if you're in a hurry, though, you can go ahead. But I didn't. And I'm like, why didn't I? Why didn't I say something? And I noticed my patterns. And the first thing is, I go, well, if it were a big deal, I would have said something. Have you ever done something like this? Well, it just wasn't that big enough of a deal. I mean, if someone else or someone I cared about and they were really upset, I would have said something. If it was something really important, I would have done something. If it were something significant, I would have done something. That's one of my patterns. And I go, wait a second. I know a universal principle. It's sheer physics. The little things are everything. Think about that. Literally. Everything in the known universe, if you add up all the little things together, that creates everything. What are you if not a collection of cells, atoms, molecules, a bunch of little things that come together to form you? You're made up of a bunch of little things. All the big things are a series and connection of little things. So I go, you know what? I gave up a little personal power here. I compromised a little bit here. But what happens when that adds up? One little compromise, another little compromise, another little compromise. How much of my personal power am I giving away with small little sacrifices and going, well, it's not that big of a deal. I'll martyr myself. Because maybe I don't want him to feel bad or whatever. So all those little things add up and become significant. I had that awareness. Then I go, is this a prior pattern? And I go, yeah, there's plenty of times I don't speak up. There's plenty of times people had to be like, Derek, what's going on with you? So it's not the first instance in a weird just sort of exception because I was just kind of, lackadaisical in that moment. So what happens is this is the first step of complete empowerment in your life, having awareness. I had to be aware of the pattern. I had to see it, and it had to really hit me, and I had to be honest with myself in that moment, aware of the feelings, listening to what they were saying, not trying to minimize the bad feeling, but going, this is a message for me. The next thing is having an appreciation for the pattern. I go, that pattern actually serves me plenty of times. There might even be situations where it's best not to say something, or to go into the mind, think about it for a few moments, and go, okay, what's happening here? What's the best way to handle this? And then speak out. What's not a beneficial pattern is thinking, and then the moment passes by to have ever even said something. It could have just been a simple 3-second, what's going on? Oh, he probably didn't realize I was next in line. I'll simply say something to him, and then that's the end of the story. When I had that sinking feeling in my stomach, I knew the key here was to get the lesson. And not just get the intellectual lesson, but embody it going forward. To take steps and to build into my daily practice something that's going to allow me to make progress in this area. Now, there's a couple things that can be done. Now, of course, I can do deeper level work. Something like timeline therapy, something that's going to remove the gestalt and really get to the core of why does this happen? Why does this show up in my life? And that's great and that's beneficial. But in terms of an immediate next step, I also know that I'm going to benefit just from having the reminder each day, from making the declaration that I need to make. So each day I remind myself, I speak up for myself. I speak up for myself. I speak up for myself. I now speak up for myself. So yes, you can do the deeper level work. And you want to do that because then you don't have to keep making affirmations and changing all these different beliefs. You really just get to the core of it and shift that. And at the same time, I look at what do I build? This is the more mindset here. What do I build into my day-to-day life to create structure and accountability for myself so that I'm consistently making progress? If I get the idea, it's like going to a guitar lesson. If I learn the guitar lesson, but I don't practice what I learned in that lesson, I didn't really get the lesson. Right? Get the lesson, get the information, then I go practice it each day or practice it on a continuous basis. So now it goes from being in my mind to in my body, the embodiment of the knowledge. So there's a deep core level shift, core level work around why did that show up in the first place? Let's work on that, which often takes a more immersive type of processing. And then there is the, what do I do every single day, like putting reps in, lifting weights, that's going to continuously strengthen that muscle and reinforce this belief that I'm choosing to create now in this moment, this new belief. So I carry it with me. I carry the lesson with me each day going forward. I've heard hit or miss things about affirmations. Some research showing that they're great, some research showing that they're not so good, and then you kind of dig a little deeper and you go, well, some type of affirmations are good, other type of affirmations you're just kind of lying to yourself and like does more harm than good. Like, I am a millionaire and you're not a millionaire, and then you just feel like even more guilty that you're not a millionaire, and it doesn't help sometimes. But see, affirmations or declarations can be like a weight, like resistance that you lift. So if you've never bench pressed 100 pounds and you can't bench press 100 pounds, then you try to take on 200 pounds, you might injure yourself, okay? At the same time, if you easily bench press 200 pounds and you're only bench pressing 20 pounds, that's not going to stimulate you that much either. Declarations, affirmations work similarly. So what I said to myself is, I now speak up for myself. I add the word now because I'm separating. In the past, maybe I didn't, but now I speak up for myself. I speak up for myself now. My brain and my subconscious mind can accept that and make it a commitment of what I'm doing going forward. Now, here's the thing. If I really have still a lot of remaining trauma or issues with speaking up for myself, if I say that and I go, ooh, I don't know if I could do that, that might not be the best affirmation for me. Okay? So you pick the affirmations, the declarations that are a stretch, but that you can own. Another one for me that I'm owning right now, I am a leader. I can accept that. It's a little bit of a scary thing, but I can accept it. Okay? So you need to pick the affirmations, the declarations that are right for where you're at. If I say, I am a writer, I know that. I own it. It's not helping me in any way. But for some people who are like, well, I've written some blogs and I've written a few things, but I don't have like a published book yet, and I haven't really gotten paid for it, so I'm not really sure I'm a writer or not. Like for them being like, no, I am a writer, that could be a good stretch that they could own. Okay, some people it's way too much resistance, way too much weight, like too heavy of a weight. For some people like myself, it's like, yeah, I've kind of owned that. It's not really going to help me to affirm that or declare that anymore. Okay, so what I did is I actually have a note card here. You can see it. This has some new affirmations for me, and I have several that I say each day. And I now speak up for myself as one of them. Because I got to live it, I got to reinforce it. I can't just get the lesson once and then lose it. That doesn't help. It's what do you live into each day? So I find the declaration. Here's the other thing. Fourth part is accountability. By declaring it and having a degree of self-trust, I know next time a situation comes up, especially by shooting this video, which is another reason for doing it, I'm going to think, wait a second, each day I declare to myself, I now speak up for myself. I even shot that video and shared with the world, declared to the world my intention that I now speak up for myself. I'm going to feel really, really bad if I don't actually speak up for myself if a situation like that were to happen again. Okay. Now, if for some reason I fail to speak up for myself, I'd have to do the work around that. I'd go, maybe why is that happening? Maybe it takes some deeper level work, maybe something like timeline therapy to really work through whatever that block is. And I truly believe that if that situation comes up again, if I'm just maintain the consciousness around it, that I'll now act in accordance with what I'm committing to, which is to speak up for myself, right? Now, granted, I could just go unconscious and just not even be aware of what's happening, right? Which is why it helps to create the declarations to raise awareness. So there's no judgment whether I, quote unquote, succeed or fail. The goal here is consciousness. The goal here is to be more and more aware of it, more and more appreciating why I used to do that and why I'm now choosing something new, to make that choice, to reinforce it and get some accountability around it. So there's ultimately 4 A's. I talk about 3 of the A's, and all 4 actually in why you're stuck, but I narrow it down to 3, which is awareness, what's going on, appreciation, why did I do that old thing, what's the benefit of the new pattern. The third A is action, or a new choice, or a new way of being. And the fourth A that I'm adding in here is accountability, speaking into it. There's actually one more key that really locks this in that took me to a high state of joy. That is, when I went through all this, I felt better, and then I celebrated. I celebrated the mistake. I celebrated the experience, because it really wasn't a mistake. It was like the universe giving me an opportunity to see a pattern in a situation that had no real consequences. So think about that. After it happened, then I was like, normally I would have been like, oh, it's no big deal. But I go, no, it is a big deal. Let me get the lesson. Then once I had the lesson, then I could release it and go, okay, but in the grand scheme of things, I spent 20 seconds waiting longer in line. Nothing really happened that was that big of a deal. So I'm like, yes, I learned what I needed. I'm so grateful for that experience, because now when situation, if there is a situation where it really is important to speak up for myself and there are serious consequences, I learned the lesson before getting into that situation. I've learned it now with a relatively safe type of experience. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're a coach or thought leader and you know you still got some hang-ups, especially this is something that I'm going to be doing some more work with Ben, a business partner. We're going to be doing some deep level work for coaches who really need to embody this if they want to be the positive, influential role model leader for those that they're serving. And I hope by my example of being willing to open up and say, hey, I might be a coach, I might be a person that helps people break through their BS, but I got to go through the process myself, and I still have my things. And if you're not a coach, then I'm curious what you took away from this. And if you don't get coaching, I'm curious to know why that is. Why is it that you don't have coaching if even the world's most effective leaders and powerful people, if they need coaches, what's holding you back from getting coaching and working through some of these things? I'd love to know that. This is Derek Depker. I hope this has been helpful to you. It's certainly been helpful to me to get it off my chest, as slightly scary as it is to actually make this confession. Take care.